Hey, if anyone who's been following me has noticed, I was able to figure out how to turn down the music. What a concept. Turned out my window needed to be bigger so that I could actually do that. But I digress. Hope everyone's doing well. Hello, and welcome. And that music's fading out, so we'll just go ahead and stop it for now. But yes, hi, welcome. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. Hope everyone's doing well. Welcome to episode 16. Welcome to episode 16 of Overtures. And if anyone sees this little one in the corner here, that's my partner. He says hi. Harry says hi. He's playing Pokemon Arceus Legends. So if anyone has been enjoying that game, like I'll get out, hit us up. Been playing it tons. But yeah, welcome to episode 16. I'm going to be starting with a clip today. So bear with me as I go to share my screen. It's a fun little clip. We're going to have a grand old time. Pull that up. And here we go. Of course, I always have to click out of it.
Hello.
Oh, we don't like buffering.
Baby?
Oh, there we go.
Hello.
Well, it's just like me.
Yes, it does. Smaller.
Well, yes. Hello, baby. Hello. Baked potato.
Don't call the child a baked potato.
Perfection.
It isn't. It's food. No one wants to be called baked potato.
Well, it doesn't even speak English.
And the various books say you should presume your child can understand you. We don't want to have problems in kindergarten or marriage because you call it a baked potato.
Well, it seems to me that you're losing your sense of humor.
I just don't want to make the child insane. That's all. Bringing up a child is a delicate thing.
All right, then. Well, you're not a baked potato, sweet pea. And you're not a sweet pea either. You're a baby. Baby. What?
I think that's such a fun and delightful place to stop that scene. My guest today is an actor, writer, and filmmaker based outside of Boston. He's earning his MFA in film and TV writing at Emerson College. In his spare time, he continues to go on long tangents about Spiderman 2, 2004, being the greatest movie ever made to passing strangers on the street. I've been very lucky to know this guest for quite literally since his earliest beginnings in college, and it's always been such a joy to see him grow as a performer, writer, and beyond. He'll always be my peer baby, probably much to his chagrin. This is David Leon.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well now after that heartwarming introduction.
I'm so glad you enjoyed that. And you're up in Massachusetts right now, yeah?
This is true. This is factual.
Nice. That's so exciting. And how do we know each other specifically? We know each other from Wagner, as many of my guests, but that's okay. But specifically to give clarification for those who aren't watching about that comment during my intro for you, I was David's peer leader during orientation, which makes you my peer baby. But yeah, no, you and Kirsten Kaiser were like my children during that orientation. And it's been so amazing to see you both grow so much as performers. I don't believe we ever had any classes together though. Did we?
No, I guess not.
I don't think we ever did,
Not
which
that I
is
can think of at least.
yeah, which is weird to think about. But I will always claim responsibility for introducing you to your my good friend and former guest of the show, Zach Norris.
Oh, that's a favorite memory of mine. You just rushing me over to Zach Norris and being like, "You two talk, mingle."
Yeah, no, because I knew from the second I saw you wear, I think it was a Spiderman jacket that you had. I think when I saw that, I was like, And so Emily and Upton and I grabbed you and ran you over the oval and we're like, you, Zach, talk now, be friends.
Oh my God, that was a great day. You two were literally the first people I met and I interacted with at
Mhm.
Wagner that day. And like, especially, I think I can speak for Kirsten on this too, because we were both terrified of uh, that LC in particular, because we were like the only two theater people that were like
Right.
in there, and there was like things with our schedules that was like conflicting with
Yes,
other
I remember
things.
that, and I was like, "It's gonna be okay, I promise."
You know, you made it so much more like you like were so sweet right from the beginning, and we're just so like uh calming for both of us. It was one of my favorite parts of that of those early college years for sure.
Thank you, that's so sweet of you, David. But yeah, getting to the interview and things like that, how did you first get started in theater?
The we were talking about this earlier because I feel like this is one of the hardest questions ever because
Well,
there
I will say this isn't necessarily the overture question yet. This is gonna be more of
oh,
like, how did you first get started? Like, did someone like get you involved and like go to a theater camp when you were little, or like did you do like community theater? How'd you like first get started?
oh, I can definitely answer that. All right.
Yeah, no
Well,
worries.
actually,
No hard questions yet.
well, actually, I guess it's like too many answers to that. So, my both of my older sisters did theater. They went to Catholic school, and I the first show I ever saw them do was Suessical, and I saw Liam's interview, and we had like a similar origin story
Yeah.
in this sense because like I fell in love with that show. I would steal my sister's iPod every day and take it with me to school and would just listen to it all the time. I'd even sing it out loud during class. And I found out that a local community theater company in my town was doing Sussical at the same time,
Please
and
tell me you played JoJo.
this is a funny story. So I go to audition. I hadn't auditioned for anything. I think I was around 5 or 6 at the time. It was around 2005, and so I I like I they tell me to prepare a song, so I prepared what was and still is my favorite song of all time. I walk in and it's like a children call. So like all these children the same age, they all got their classical golden age standard songs prepared. I'm the last one to go, and everyone goes. They sing their Oklahomas, their Sound of Musics, and all that.
Mhm.
I go and I stand up. I sing the SpongeBob song, "The Best Day Ever." It's my audition song, my first ever audition.
You were doing the
Um,
pop rock from the beginning.
I was ahead of my time, if I dare say. But so I did that, and then I got a call from them like either later that week or something like that, and they called me specifically to tell me that I was the only one that didn't get cast in their show.
What? Oh my
Yeah.
god, that's so mean.
So that was my first audition, but my first time doing a theater show was I was in middle school. I was in the 7th grade, and I was very shy, very introverted. I didn't do like anything outside of school related, and I found out that a friend of mine who actually had a huge crush on at the time was auditioning for the our production of Into the Woods Junior.
Hmm.
So because of that, I went and auditioned for it, and they had this thing where everyone got cast. So I was like, okay, there's no worries
You're
this
like
time.
you're like, "No worries, I can't it's impossible for them to cut me from this."
Exactly,
I'm still mad about that, by the way, but continue.
So I did that, and that was kind of like what did it. I did that, and I did for the rest of my school years. I did every show up until that way it fell into it.
That's awesome, that's awesome. And then
Oh, I
like
was
what
Milky White too. I forgot to add that. I was the cow. I had an all white suit that they originally used as a mouse costume from Stuart Little the
Oh
previous
my
year,
god.
and I was dressed up in that. I had like these little knee pads. I would walk around just
That's
literally standing up and then going from crawling on the ground and like walking around.
That's so funny. I hope that somewhere in the depths of things, maybe in film, who knows, do you like, I hope there's pictures of you as Milky White.
There are for sure pictures. If people are so inclined, they can stalk my Facebook. They're
Oh my
buried
god.
somewhere in there
That's so funny.
in the abyss. Yeah.
In the abyss of Facebook.
Yeah.
Oh my god. But likewise, how did you then get into film and screen work?
So film, that was kind of like the constant right from the beginning. It's just uh it kind of similar with theater too, because like my sisters had always done that. It was always like, and I used to watch like old musicals, like West Side Story and Sound of Music. Sound of Music is my sister's favorite movie, so we had that VHS, and the 2004 Phantom of the Opera film. So
Mm,
I think that's like another answer as to how I got into theater, was like through film actually.
that's
But
interesting.
film was always like the thing. That was always the kind of like the way that I uh, had always been a part of my life. The earliest memory I have is back in 2002. I was 3 years old, and my family and I were walking through our Target store, and there's like this whole rack of Spider-Man DVDs. It had just come out. It was November, so it had just come out on DVD, and the second Harry Potter movie was in theaters at the same
Mm.
time. So my mother decides to get it, and we come back home, and I go up to my mother's bedroom where we have like this little 90s boxed gray DVD television set, and she plays it, and and she leaves the room, and I sit there alone, and that opening music plays, and my life was changed forever. That is the earliest memory I have of like falling in love really with film. I mean, I was
Mhm.
terrified of Spider-Man at that time. I was like, I thought he was the villain, so I
Oh
was like,
no!
had really bad nightmares for like a few days. But then like I
But you recovered. It was fine.
no, by the time 2004 came around, I was like, oh my god, that was the year to be alive. Spider-Man 2 is coming out. I was like collecting all the toys I could possibly get my hands on, and I was there opening night and saw it. I begged my parents to take me as many times as possible, and that was also 2004 was, I think, the year where it really, there's so many moments. Like, to say that one moment was like the moment feels almost like a
Right.
betrayal to like these other things that happen like throughout. The three most important films, I would say, though, that were like probably the
Mhm.
most like life changing in that way, in addition to the first Spider-Man, was Spider-Man 2, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, and the Polar Express, which all came out
Ooh.
back to back in that golden year of
That's a good
2004,
one. That's a good,
right?
like, selection of movies. Yeah. No, and I totally it's really interesting. I'm gonna bring up an Instagram question in a second because it's relating to this conversation, but I wanted to jump in, and I think it's really interesting your connection with theater and film, and how film was kind of the one that got you into theater. Because I had a similar situation where I saw the movie Super 8, back in, like, my freshman year of high school, 8th grade, in and around there, and the fact that the cast was just like all kids, who were like quite literally my age, like Elle Fanning's about my age, etc. I was like, oh, like people can like do that like as a job. And it was something about like that movie that made it click, that like, oh, I can do that. And then of course, right, that was when my high school was doing Carousel, and I like got involved in like the high school productions in a new way. Like, I'd always done theater up until then, but that's when I started to take it the most seriously. So it's interesting how like film can bring us to theater in that way.
It's beautiful, that synchronicity between each other. They're always seen as like two completely separate mediums, and there's like a lot of validity to that for sure. But there's
Mhm.
really like the most important, crucial thing at their heart that they share is like that time that you spend with each of those people involved in like getting like traveling to like other worlds and other places and knowing these people. It's like living a whole lifetime, but you
Yeah.
do it for like many, many times through like
Yeah.
many shows and many films.
Exactly. And now this is the Instagram question that I was telling you is going to be incredibly hard. So I'm just going to warn you now, but
Oh
it
no.
fits with what we were talking about. So a loyal watcher, listener of the podcast show, whatever we want to call it, at Chris XC34, said, "I'm eager to hear your take on why Spider-Man 2 is the greatest film ever made." Now, granted, I will tell you, we are only 17 minutes into this episode, give or take. So let's make sure we keep it a little short just so we can get to everything else. But I'm also curious to hear what you have to say as well.
Completely understand. Um, so kind of similar to my last answer, Spider-Man 2 uh, came at a time when um, films like as a whole were really kind of like my only way to connect with people. I didn't have a I had like a not to get like really like self-pitying, but like
No, no, you're fine.
I had a very lonely childhood where I had a lot of trouble like connecting and making friends and like all of that, and like I was always kind of like the outsider in my family. So movies were like the way that I kind of like um kind of like lived, especially as I was growing up. And so by the time that Spider-Man 2 came around, um, I was already like a massive Spider-Man fan, and was like um, uh, really excited about it in that way. But watching the movie, even at like that young of an age, um, was like, um, I mean, because it really was like the Godfather of my childhood, or like
Mm.
the Citizen Kane, or what are like
Yeah, what are the
um
other like
yeah,
timeline
let me look
related
around.
movies?
It was the Back to the Future of my childhood. But like because like the filmmaking of it is so beautiful. Like you watch every single frame. It's also just the most perfectly edited film, I think, in
Mm.
existence, because everything moves so fluidly. Everything is so uh everything just every scene is important. Everything completely serves the entire story. And um watching it at that early of an age, and the story too, um just like has stuck with me in a way that like is incredibly hard to put into words. I feel like I'm not even
Yeah.
answering the question, just
No,
kind of
that's
like dancing
okay.
around it.
Well,
But
yeah, no, and I think that speaks to like your passion about it too, is that you're like, well, where do I even start? How do I even answer that question? And I think it can also be like it's the one of the what we were talking saying the greatest film ever made, simply because it was that important to you. And I think that that's really cool and really yeah, I think again, like shows your passion for it as well. And there's so many technical things you can speak to, but I think the personal is what, like, makes the most, importance here.
I've spent years trying to find a good answer, and you just did that. You just found the perfect answer. It's that, and that's it. It's like, and that's the beautiful thing about it, is like there's a best film for every person, because every person, like, I guess not to get too philosophical, but like has their own world and their own universe.
Yeah.
And in a way, everyone's world, not in like an egotistical way, but like everyone's world is like in their own way a singular center of the universe.
Yeah.
So there will always be a best film for every person, but it's like the depths and the realms that you can reach within each one is truly just a beautiful thing. And you articulate that so succinctly in a few words,
Well,
and I'm just
thank you. I think
astounded.
you also articulated it very well. So, like, props to both of us on that one. But
Pat
yeah,
on the
no,
back.
but like going into the more dreaded question that we were discussing earlier, for you, was there, and it can be one, it can be many, I understand. Was there one like overture or light bulb moment of you're like, oh, this is what I want to do? And granted, for this one, let's say specifically theater, because I'll ask in about film and writing in a second.
Um, for theater, I would say I think it was that uh the time when oh actually so the time I was in middle school was the first time I had really felt like I was part of a community, and I think that's what really made me fall in love with it, and like uh make me want to keep doing it. But I don't think I realized that until my sophomore year of high school, because by that point I had gone through like a really low and bad stage of depression, and that year we did the Laramie Project cycle as our fall play, which was the
Mm,
original Laramie Project and then the Laramie Project 10 years later as one complete
wow.
work. Um,
That's a
and
that's a tough one for a high school. Holy
it
crap.
was, and we had 6 male actors in the total cast, and what is, I think, like 40 male roles.
Yeah.
So we had split that up between a bunch of us. And then our musical that year was Pippin.
Mm,
Um, and it's something about those two shows, which I think genuinely on their own are like two of the greatest pieces of theater ever, especially Pippin. Like I've been thinking about Pippin actually recently. Like you look at that original Broadway production, nothing like that has ever been done before and
Yeah.
since. And it's like heartfelt, sincere, disturbing, and creepy,
Yeah.
ominous. Like it's a whole bunch of things. But those two shows, like the way that they were, um, like connected with me at like a deeper level that I hadn't like really been as familiar with. And so doing those shows and doing that with that specific group of people who I genuinely felt like really close with and like felt like I could be myself, because that was a whole other thing about theater, was like allowing myself to kind of just like accept who I am, which has been like, a whole a continuous journey still. But like I think that was the year where I really kind of like said to myself, like, I can't do anything else. This is what I have to do, like, for the rest of my life.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said with like with in high schools, middle schools, etc., like the level of, oh, what can they and can't they get? And I feel like putting on a show like Pippin, which has a lot more emotional maturity than you would necessarily expect, I think, like you were just by pointing out, like you experiencing that was life changing for you, and I think people need to keep that in mind. But that's just my own little soapbox that I'll step down from. But in terms of like film and writing, was there a moment for that for you? Because obviously you've always been taken with film. We were just talking about that. But what about specifically writing for film?
I actually do. That's a very easy answer, actually. It
Hey,
was
love that.
also middle school. I had just gotten into a show called The Twilight Zone, and that was it. That I was just like captivated. The first episode I ever saw of it was the one with uh oh, It's a Good Life. It's the one where the kid has like mind control powers and he has this entire town like under his grip. Like it just